It is a Tuesday evening, and you're sitting on the edge of your sofa. You haven't said a word. You haven't started crying. In fact, you are doing your best to maintain a mask of stoic composure after a day that has quietly dismantled your resolve. But before the first tear even forms, you feel a weight against your knee. Your dog, who was deep in a dream state in the other room just moments ago, is now pressing their head into your palm. They aren't asking for a walk. They aren't nudging you for food. They are simply there, staring up with an intensity that feels less like observation and more like a diagnostic scan. Most owners call this intuition. We tell ourselves our dogs have a sixth sense for our internal weather. This is a mystical bond that transcends the physical world. But behavioral neuroscience suggests that what is actually happening is far more profound than a psychic hunch. It is a masterclass in cross-species biological surveillance. Your dog isn't just guessing that you are sad. They are responding to a complex symphony of chemical, auditory, and visual signals. These are signals that your body is broadcasting against your will. They are navigating what researchers call the empathy boundary, the invisible line where your nervous system ends and theirs begins. And the science of how they cross that line reveals a level of evolutionary sophistication that most of us are only beginning to comprehend. To understand how a dog senses your sadness, we first have to understand that humans are quite literally walking chemical signals. When we experience deep sadness or acute stress, our endocrine system shifts. We release cortisol, the primary stress hormone, and adrenaline. While these changes are invisible to the human eye, they are loud to a canine nose. A dog's olfactory bulb is roughly 40 times larger than ours, relative to brain size. They don't just smell the room, they smell the moment. In 2022, researchers at Queen's University Belfast conducted a landmark study. They collected sweat and breath samples from humans before and after a stressful task. When presented with these samples, dogs could distinguish the stressed scent from the neutral scent with 93.75% accuracy. But here's the revelation. Sadness has a distinct chemical signature. When you're grieving or depressed, your metabolic rate shifts, and the volatile organic compounds, VOCs, you emit through your pores change. Your dog isn't reading your mind. They are reading your chemistry. They can smell the drop in serotonin and the spike in cortisol before you have even processed the emotion yourself. To your dog, your sadness isn't a feeling. It's a scent that fills the house. Beyond the chemical, there is the mechanical. We often focus on the big signals, sobbing, head in hands, slumped shoulders. But dogs are attuned to the micro cues that precede the breakdown. Consider your breathing. When a human enters a state of emotional distress, their respiratory rate often shallows or becomes irregular. The shift is subtle to us, but to an animal that co-evolved to track the breathing of prey in high-grassed plains, it is a flashing red light. Psychologists at the University of Vienna have documented that dogs utilize social eavesdropping. They aren't just looking at you, they are monitoring the rhythm of your life. They know the exact cadence of your happy footsteps versus your heavy ones. They recognize the specific facial microexpressions, the tightening of the muscles around the eyes, the slight downturn of the mouth. These occur in the milliseconds before a human realizes they are about to cry. In a 2018 study published in the journal Learning and Behavior, researchers found that dogs would bypass obstacles significantly faster. They would reach their owners faster if they heard them crying versus humming. But the most telling part? The dogs who reached their owners fastest weren't just helping. They were showing signs of their own physiological stress. They weren't just observing the sadness, they were catching it. This brings us to the most significant discovery in the psychology of the canine-human bond, emotional contagion. For decades, we believed that empathy was a uniquely high-level cognitive trait. It was thought to be reserved for primates with complex self-awareness. We now know that empathy exists on a spectrum, and dogs occupy a space on that spectrum. This space is functionally identical to a human toddler. And when your dog sees you in distress, their brain doesn't just register that the human is sad. Their own nervous system begins to mirror yours. We see this most clearly in the synchronization of heart rate variability, HRV. As we discussed in previous explorations of sleep, a bonded dog's heart rate will often begin to sync. This synchronization with their owner's heart rate typically occurs during rest. But when you're sad, the opposite happens. A stress sync. If your heart rate becomes erratic due to emotional pain, your dog's autonomic nervous system shifts to match. This is not a choice they make. It is a biological imperative. They are wired to co-regulate with you. This is the empathy boundary. Your dog's sense of safety is tethered to your emotional stability. When your baseline drops into sadness, their baseline drops with it. They aren't just sitting by you to comfort you. They are sitting by you for another reason. Their own nervous system is demanding a return to balance. By pressing their body against yours, they are attempting to use their own physical presence to ground both of you. It is a cross-species feedback loop of emotional regulation that has no parallel in the natural world. Why did evolution produce an animal so exquisitely sensitive to our internal pain? The answer lies in the 15,000-year contract we signed with the gray wolf. In the early days of domestication, survival depended on the mutual gaze. A dog that could accurately read a human's emotional state was a dog that got fed. This was a dog that was invited into the warmth of the fire. And this was a dog that was protected from the elements. Over thousands of generations, we inadvertently bred for emotional intelligence. We selected the dogs that were the most attuned to our signals. We were creating a genetic lineage of biological mirrors. This is why a dog will respond to your sadness even if they have never seen you cry before. It is baked into their DNA. They carry unique genetic markers, specifically on chromosome 6. These markers are associated with extreme social sensitivity. Wolves, despite being their direct ancestors, do not possess these markers in the same way. A wolf might recognize your distress, but they wouldn't feel the biological urge to intervene. A dog, however, cannot help themselves. Your pain is, quite literally, their problem. However, there is a side to this sensitivity that we rarely discuss. If your dog is a mirror, what happens when the reflection stays dark for too long? Because dogs are so effective at absorbing our emotional states, they are also susceptible to secondary trauma. Veterinary researchers have found that dogs living in households with high levels of chronic stress or long-term depression often exhibit higher levels of long-term cortisol in their own hair samples. Your dog's ability to sense your sadness is a gift, but it is also a burden they carry. They are emotional sponges, and unlike humans, they lack the cognitive tools. They lack the tools to rationalize why you're hurting. They don't know that you're sad because of a job loss or a breakup. They only know that the alpha of their pack, their safe person, is broadcasting a signal. This signal is one of danger or collapse. This is why in periods of deep grief you might notice your dog becoming more clingy. They might be more prone to naughty behaviors or even showing signs of lethargy. They aren't being difficult. They are reflecting the instability of the environment. They are navigating the empathy boundary, and they are struggling to find the shore. So, the next time you feel that cold nose touch your hand during a dark moment, realize that you are participating in one of the most ancient conversations on Earth. It is a conversation that doesn't require a single word. Your dog has bypassed your defenses, ignored your "I'm fine," and gone straight to the biological truth. They have analyzed your scent, measured your breath, and synchronized their heart to yours. They have crossed the empathy boundary not because they have to, but because of evolution. Over 15,000 years of evolution have told them that your survival and theirs are the same thing. They are telling you, in the only language they have, that they see you. Not the version of you that you present to the world, but the real you, the vulnerable you. And in their world, that version of you is still the most important thing. The science suggests that we don't just own dogs, we share a nervous system with them. And perhaps the most healing part of that realization isn't just that they sense our sadness. It's that they are willing to sit in it with us until the chemistry changes. They stay until the breathing slows and the world feels safe again. If this helped you understand the depth of the connection you feel with your dog, consider subscribing. We are building a library of the unspoken science between us and our companions. And I want to hear from you in the comments. Was there a specific moment when your dog seemed to know? Did they know you were hurting before you did? Let's talk about it below. I'll see you in the next one.